Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Chocolate Saying, John, and Sleeping Warrior. How the devil are you all?
Oh, good man.
Oh, hello.
Where have you been? It's been a long time.
I've been just relaxing.
Hooker's Coke and rum, right?
No, I don't really drink. The last time I drank was with you.
Yeah, it's just the hookers and the Coke then.
Yeah, that's not implied, no. Not at all.
Vastus is los.
So, should we start with some housekeeping?
Yeah, go on.
No, hold on 1 second. I had a request to start this show 45 minutes later. You're in my workout time.
Okay.
So, go ahead and close up the show.
Right.
I think we can safely say your request was denied.
Yeah, I think it was.
I didn't
I'm
see
sorry,
it.
go ahead.
I've not long been back, so not caught up on all my messages.
Housekeeping, come on.
Housekeeping. Any signs of curvature in the last couple of
No.
days?
Chris Monk's claiming that there's curvature everywhere.
No, we already dealt with that.
Well, he's claiming there's curvature, but we just can't see it, right?
Well, he's claiming that there's curvature.
Okay. Well, if Chris is out there, I'd love to hear it. Last
We're
time
gonna have to get Chris in so he can tell us where he currently stands, because it appears that he's gone back to the ball. Stop it! It appears that he's gone back to the ball, although he was never really on the flat to start with. He was always like on the fence. But he appears that he's gone back to the ball, but in a geocentric position. And the geocentric position that he's taken involves the Earth spinning.
What?
So work out what model he's following there.
How can that
I'm
possibly
not
be?
with it.
So you've got a spinning Earth, then you can't. Then it's not geocentric, right? Geocentric means we're at the center. So you're saying we're at the center, but spinning?
Yeah, I think so. We need to get him on to work out where he's at.
That's
Okay.
an interesting take.
Well, I mean, you originally said yes because of curve. I mean, has Chris presented something new?
Yeah, he claims that Isle of Man stuff shows curve, and I'm like, no, it doesn't. I'm like, what are you talking about? You spent weeks with us arguing that it didn't show curve. Why does it now suddenly show curve? I don't know why he sees it as showing curve, but he's claiming it's curve.
Fair enough. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to move on from curvature? It's up to you.
Yeah, he's the only one that sees curve. Get out.
Fair enough. What about axial rotation?
Yeah, Chris Monk thinks that he's got axial rotation.
Is this going to be
No,
a repeating
zero.
theme? Well, Chris Monk says there's axial rotation. Let's see how quickly people who originally said that he was a complete idiot and didn't know what he was talking about and needed discrediting now say he's a wonderful man from the globe side.
Yep.
We'll see how quickly people flip-flop in that regard.
Exactly.
Yeah, sing their song, and that's what's going on with Arwen right now, right? Arwen's getting criticism from the flat earthers because it's numerous reasons. But have you noticed that all the ballers are basically patting him on the back saying, "Good job, Arwen, good job," which is fueling his fire? Sorry, state of affairs.
Which is kind of weird because Arwen still doesn't believe that the Earth's a globe, but they're still patting him on the back. So it's a little bit of a weird.
They're deliberately causing a divide by patting him on the back, and Arwen sat there lapping it up like a little lap dog. And it's what it's doing is fueling his fire with, well, the plane hour off and he doesn't realise it. I hope he realises it soon. Ouch.
Okay. So
Darwin's smart enough.
Is that a no
He'll
to
figure it
axial
out.
rotation or what?
No, Chris. Yeah, Chris Monk claims that there's axial rotation. Yeah,
But based on what?
he claims it based on the. Well, this is going to be a potential fallout because he claims it on the back of the fiber optic gyro. Apparently, I spoke to Chris and I asked him what was the reason why he flipped. And the answer he gave was to do with the fiber optic gyro. And his answer is that the data that he's seen supports rotation. And I'm like, well, why has Bob not said that?
Oh, God.
No.
So can I just say this for probably... This is going to get tedious for you, John. I'm really sorry. So this is called a formal logical fallacy, affirming the consequent. If P, then Q, Q, therefore P. If we have a rotating Earth, we will see a 12-degree or 15-degree turn in a fiber optic gyroscope. We see a 15-degree turn in a fiber optic gyroscope, therefore the Earth is turning. If I eat 10 hamburgers, I am full. I am full, therefore I ate 10 hamburgers. The one does not necessarily logically follow the other. And in this case, saying that a gyro moving means the Earth is turning is nonsense.
I agree. They're not able to establish what is turning. Is it the Earth or is it the stars? And I'm not going to get into it because I don't know enough about it.
I've got to stop you there then. Sorry. Right. If we see a 15-degree turn in a gyroscope, then the ether must be rotating. The ether is rotating because we see a 15-degree turn in a gyroscope. Yet another formal logical fallacy. You are now guilty of it, Anthony. It's not an if.
I'm not.
Or...
I'm not. I don't accept that. What I'm saying is that he's the one that claims derpa derpa derpa, and you're asking the question: is there any signs of axial rotation? And I'm saying that he's saying that there is. I ain't guilty of nothing. I'm passing on the message.
Fair enough. Well, I'm just pointing out the formal logical fallacy, regardless of you being the messenger. I want the message to get across, not to you. You know this implicitly. I know you do. It's been drummed into you enough times. But ultimately speaking, yeah, I want that message to get across. So if it comes over like I'm trying to berate you, I'm not. I'm just berating people who continually use logical fallacies to prove the Earth is spinning. It's annoying.
There is another one he cites for Earth spinning.
Ooh,
he believes that our compasses are actually a ball Earth proof. I'm not going to explain compasses? Why. We can move on. But he actually believes that gyroscopes prove the Earth spins.
Okay. Did you say
he also believes in dinosaurs as well.
He believes in dinosaurs. My wife got me into that conspiracy.
No, he's gone back to accepting dinosaurs existed. He believes that there was a big change in the atmosphere's climate and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, oh right, so full-on retard mode has been enabled.
Amazing. Okay.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yep.
I can't quite believe this, but it is laughable. Okay, fair enough.
Hold on. What's his favorite color? We forgot to go over that.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Indeed. Well, I can't help it, John, if it's constantly Chris Monk as the answer when I say, is there any signs of, I don't know, what's next, gravity?
Yeah, Chris Monk.
Oh, here we go. What a surprise.
Yeah, it was Chris. I heard it.
He shows that he now believes that navigational compasses show the gravitational effect. He also accepts that as you go deeper in the underground, the gravity gets less. And I'm like, that doesn't support sphericity. It should get more. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't support sphericity, but it does get less. And I'm like, but you're acknowledging that gravity is there, right? And he's like, yeah, it's definitely there. And I'm like, really? So I don't know what's happened with Chris, but he seems to have become full-on crazy guy. And it's like, what's going on here?
Surely he's not going to be Chris Monk as the answer to this one. What about a pressurized system next to a vacuum?
No.
Oh, yeah, Chris.
Come off it. Seriously?
Mm-mm. No, the citation for that one is... It was Red's Rhetoric, wasn't it? But who was the one that superseded him?
M. Scott Veitch.
Yes, the astronaut. He believes that there's a pressurized environment next to a vacuum. And obviously, Nathan's going to be volunteered to go and pull the lever. And when M. Scott Veach goes into a vac chamber inside a spaceman suit, I'm going to watch his eyeballs get sucked out of his head.
Fair enough. Doesn't sound appealing to me. I don't really want to watch that happen. But, you know, if it's comedic to say I'm pulling the lever, then fine. But, you know, I don't wish to see someone's eyes sucked out of their head. But there we go.
Apparently, it's not going to happen according to M. Scott Veach because a spaceman suit will protect them in the vacuum against the pressurized environment of Earth. Did you have to do that?
If he wants to trust in the NASA costume department, that's his bag. What about signs of Anybody shown any scientific evidence of Earth radius?
Yeah, Chris Monk claims that compasses do it. Chris Monk claims that compasses do it. He claims that navigational compasses prove R. He also claims that the fiber optic gyroscope also proves R. And I don't know how he makes these causal connections, but he is claiming them.
Well, maybe we'll find out. I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? Have I covered it all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
molten iron core.
Oh, yes.
Oh, the molten iron.
Well said,
yeah.
Chocolate saying. So, yes, any signs of a molten iron core at the centre of a sphere Earth presupposed by radius?
Yes, Chris Monk.
I was going to say it, but I didn't want to. But yeah, Chris Monk thinks that there's a molten iron core.
You're joking. You've got to be joking.
No, he definitely does think that there's a molten iron core. He thinks it's true. He thinks that the convection currents and all that. And I'm like, he's totally flip-flopped. It's like someone's pressed his reset button and he's now become like a full-on ball tard. It's
Sorry,
bad.
so what's his... He's saying convection currents?
Yeah.
So, okay, I might as well round out the housekeeping with the same thing we started with, which is formal logical fallacy, affirming the consequent. If P, then Q, Q, therefore P. If we have a molten iron core, we will see convection currents. We see convection currents, therefore we have a molten iron core. If P, then Q, Q, therefore P. The one does not necessarily follow the other.
We need to... Can you stop using P and Q? Because Channel Q gets all excited when she hears a name.
You said this last time. I'm not going to use the same joke.
I'll try not to when she hears a name.
Fair enough.
It's like my dog. If I say certain keywords like walkies, she reacts the same way that my dog does when he hears that phrase.
I quite like P and Q because visually the two letters are very similar, but sort of backwards to each other, if you know what I mean.
What's wrong with A and B?
Well, because they don't look anything alike, whereas P and Q look very similar.
Just be aware that you trigger Channel Q when you do it.
I don't mind.
I don't think she needs any help being triggered.
That concludes the housekeeping anyway. Wonderful.
Yeah. So let's get on to talking about the current hot topic.
Wow, what would that be? I've no idea.
Mr. Natanook. Shut up.
See, even the dog don't like him.
What conclusions can we draw? I mean, before yesterday, I had gossip and rumour that it might be George that had contacted the board for Brian's licence. I'll just say that correctly because that is the actual situation as opposed to his employers, which was not the case according to George. However, I don't trust George as far as I could throw him. Everything he said felt like it was truthful. However, there was a lot of kind of running around the reeking about the information he had originally cited in order to discredit this person that he dug about. You know, originally he said he didn't think he was an engineer, then he found out he was an engineer, so he inquired if there was any complaints against this engineer, and then apparently cited something that he couldn't actually lay his hands on. Now, a few people in the comments have said it's come from some toxic something or other site. Again, I don't know if that's the case. Frankly, I'm not interested. His citation wasn't actually that important. It was just something that it seemed we could have him on the ropes for because he didn't seem to have a credited citation for his original assertion that there was an ethical issue with Brian Mullen. He just couldn't lay his hands on it. Now, whether or not it's there or, you know, he just has a very poor short-term memory is irrelevant. You know, the details that count are the fact that maliciously he got in touch with a man the person who licensed, or the board that licensed, a man he had never met and had had very, very limited contact with based on his belief about the shape of the Earth, totally and utterly unrelated to his engineering challenges and tasks that he may be set in employment, this was done outside of. And essentially, through trawling through some of these rules and regulations, it transpires that, as far as we could ascertain, he has done absolutely nothing wrong, Brian Mullen, that is, in respect to his employment or his licence. So, based on that, there was no cause or action, as far as we could see, to do anything. And yet, he has gone to some considerable effort, just based on the repeat research that he was trying to do to find out something to have over Brian Mullen. And he indeed exercised his, how did you phrase it, John? Flashing his credentials about being an engineer, and which was the very thing, again, he criticised Brian Mullen for doing, and then in the next breath said it was fine to do so. Shout out for the super chat, Joseph, thanks very much. But yeah, so he was hypocritical in the respect that he said, he shouldn't be flashing his credentials and talking about, well, it doesn't really matter from that point on, because he was guilty of that himself. He came on and said, look, I'm an engineer, and I don't like the fact that people are saying they're engineers. That was his basic issue. And when it got to the stage that we pointed out that ultimately he's perfectly entitled to label himself an engineer exactly as George Netanyahu had done, and it was in no way in any breach of anything he had done in terms of his licence or his career, he said, well, it's absolutely fine that you can say you're an engineer. So he completely criticised himself and didn't have any evidence to back up his assertion that he'd broken some sort of rule. And then in his YouTube video, which he continually referenced, it seemed to allude to him saying that there was several violations. So there we go. That's about as brief a summary as I can give.
And let's just be clear, though. I want to correct something that you just said because I don't agree with it. You said then it wasn't that important what the citation for his claim was. I actually think that was the crux of it. I think that if the guy's got some issue against Brian for being wrong on YouTube, then basically it really does matter what his gripe was, because if he's going to go to somebody's regulatory body based on being wrong on YouTube, then what does that tell you about George Netanyahu's psychological profile? It tells you that the guy is literally a vindictive guy that doesn't like, well, basically doesn't like flat earthers. So I think that it was most important that we got to find out what the basis of his complaint was. And I'm glad that he didn't really show it particularly well, and it relied on Arwin offering his services to help him, which was promptly refused because whatever. But it's bad that he didn't know why or what citation that he was relying on to try and prove some element of, well, wrongdoing for being wrong on YouTube, assuming, of course, that he was in fact wrong, which who cares whether he was right or wrong about the point in hand or the points in hand. What matters is if for some reason they feel as though that was a justifiable and legitimate reason to try and wreck his career. Well, being wrong on YouTube doesn't wreck someone's career.
I'd like 2 minutes to tie a bow around this debauchery.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you're done. We ready? You want to do it now?
Max, or yours?
Yeah. All right. Listen, I've personally held state and national professional licenses. I don't know how the engineering profession specifically conducts its business, but I can damn sure speak to this conceptually, right? Number one, George said that engineers don't need to be licensed. However, what if Brian's employer required a license for employment? Number two, I can tell you that the professional organizations like these are somewhat tight-knit. All you need do is mere innuendo, no official action needed, and the receiver could feel the pain through the back door. George certainly knows this. What if someone on the licensing board knew Brian's employer personally? What if a board member talked to their buddies and they knew Brian's employer, right? People talk, they gossip, duh. Moreover, all George need do is bring this topic up to any of the slobbering knuckle draggers in the ED, that's the Earth discussions community. It would have been akin to release the hounds. So all George could all he could do, he could wash his hands of the issue, innocent angel, because the ED crayon munchers would do his work for him. Then George could sit back, kick his feet up, light a stogie, and watch the carnage from afar. All the while, Yellow Spine safe harboring himself with a plausible deniability cloak. Furthermore, I have it from an extremely reliable source that Cordis, he's an ED clown, along with George, were the prime movers behind these scumbag moves, and both George and Cordis, it admitted as much to my source. So let's just put this to bed. The moment that he contacted that license board, or even if he didn't, it doesn't have to be him. Any one of his crayon munchers, and that they would be firing after Brian, especially when he's getting ready to go to the Flat Earth Conference and present, right? All they need to do is just bring up his name, Brian Mullen's name, to that board, and it's over. So let's just put this to bed right now.
Yeah.
Done. Scumbag. Over. Thank you.
Any signs of curvature? No, I'm only joking.
Well, I think it's doing enough rounds because Robbie Davidson's mirrored it, Mark Sargent's mirrored it, I think Patricia's mirrored it. I think the word's getting around that this guy was literally deceitful. He was dishonestly trying to cause a man hardship based on being wrong on the internet. I mean, let's be honest. It doesn't matter what he's wrong about on the internet, really. It's a pseudoscience world, the internet. It's not a real place, which is why all these trolls are not real people. They just pretend to be real people, but they won't come on camera. They won't tell us their real names. But nonetheless, yeah, there was a lot of people that were mirroring this and getting the message across, and people now realize, but this happens everywhere. And yeah, Nathan, I've seen your last 2 messages on Skype.
Okay, can I talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've just had Ranty in one of the many back chats saying, you shouted out Mark and Robbie Davidson. What about all our hard work? And my intention was to give a massive thank you on this show, but it's been very somber up until this point. So, short of doing the local newscaster thing, and on a lighter note, it hasn't been an opportunity for me to thank all of the subscribers that have recently joined this channel and all of the contributors to the show. But Nora was quick in the chat and said, to be fair, he does thank you all on every show. And I genuinely mean it. At the end of each show, I say massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel. Sometimes all of the audience, I just flip it around from time to time. But I am genuinely grateful to every single person who watches. And often I'll correct you guys when you're like, the bloody ballers in chat, this, that and the other. And I'm like, no, faithful viewers. So, I'm actually genuinely appreciative of everybody who watches the show. And often they don't share my views, but I'm welcoming their comments. So things that bug me a little bit are when people accuse me of deleting comments, which I don't do. And they'll say, I've repeated this comment because you deleted it. And sometimes you'll see a flat earther say it, and then they'll be good enough to come back maybe an hour or 2 hours later and say, oh, it's just a YouTube thing, it just wasn't showing. I'm like, literally, I don't fiddle with the comments. I don't, approve them or anything. It doesn't work like that for me. They just all get approved as far as I'm aware. I think there's some minor filters set for if there's anything particularly vulgar. But, I've got an open platform. I want people to comment. I thank them for their comments. Sometimes I'm rude. In Robbie Davidson's video that he mirrored, there was a few commenters in there that said, look, I've gone in and said, maybe you could be a bit less this, that and the other, and I got called a snowflake, and Nathan told me, don't bother coming back. You think, well, if I have said that, it's probably while I've got a bucket load of adrenaline pumping around me. So at the end of the show 2 days ago with George, I'm sure you'll all agree, it was tense. We're all on edge. We're all ready to, as John put it, jump down the microphone because we're all pissed off. I'm going to use a bit of sweary language because it's true. We're all emotionally charged.
Definitely.
Yeah, but that video, that wasn't a normative behavior. I thought it was, quite restrained. So I don't know what they're talking about.
All I'm saying is, when people are critical, I like criticism. obviously some of it's not in the slightest bit constructive, but nonetheless, I thanked that person on Robbie's video and said, I take your criticisms on board. If I was stroppy with you, it's because I normally just immediately start responding to comments after I've closed out the show, mirrored it, done all the admin that I do, which takes me a while after the show finishes, as you guys know. But once that's done, I'll normally go and have a quick look at the comments and start responding to people. But at that point, I haven't unwound. I'm still full of adrenaline. So sometimes I can say things to some of the valued viewers that I may regret if I could see the comments later. But the amount of comments I get is phenomenal. So, it's not like I can just see them and keep up with them. Often, a day after the video's published, there's so many comments I just can't keep up. But anyway, I'm more than anything trying to change the subject and lighten the tone, and I'm not doing a great job. But there we go.
Did a fine job. There was nothing wrong. I listened to it a couple times. I thought it was quite restrained, like I said. He had plenty of time to present his case, right? He had the complete mic. He was open except for, a couple places where everyone had to get in their 10,000 words, but you snuffed that out pretty quick. He had more than enough time to present his case, present his defense, and he didn't. Period. End of story.
If you watch his response video, his first couple of minutes, he basically says words to the effect of, I just went on Nathan's show and it didn't really go all that well. No shit, Sherlock. But he basically says, Nathan's a terrible moderator because... And then there's a bit of a pause while he has a think to what to say. And basically, he has to change the sentence straight away. So he actually doesn't give any reason for why Nathan was a terrible mod. And to be honest, I thought Nathan's best performance was that hangout because, I mean, literally, people wanted to speak to him and say, what are you doing, you moron? And he was allowed to speak and overstate his case. And he couldn't do it. And the back and forth was brilliant. So to be honest, I think that Nathan's best moment was in that hangout.
I agree.
I agree. I mean, yeah, thank you. I don't know. It's just another day at the office as far as I'm concerned. But, at one point, I'm sure it was Walt said, look, you've got to appreciate that we're all biting our tongues here. And I thought, well, yeah, so am I, because, I want to rave and shout at this guy. But you can't. Like Anthony says, you've got to try and remain calm and let him hang himself. And the pressure is what's building up in the hangout for everybody. It's not just George that's under pressure. And when that pressure builds up, and this is something we've discussed recently with Arwin, it may be the case that someone like Arwin wants to relieve that pressure because it's not just on the person that's getting grilled. So in a way, you kind of, through empathy, want to help someone out that's obviously having their head stoved in by us about a particular point. And it's palpable often. I assume that's why I've picked up, 1,000 subscribers in 8 or 10 weeks or whatever it is, which is just growth I've never seen before, because that tension is often palpable. You can really feel it. And it's not just the person being grilled. Arwin, who is an empathetic character, I can assure you, for all the people giving him grief, he's a good guy. I'm not, I know he has his fallouts. I often get annoyed with him and shout at him. He does the same to me. We often do this, but that's what mates do. And ultimately speaking, I feel it may be the case that he senses that tension and wants to relieve it, because he doesn't want somebody who's under that kind of pressure, regardless of if they're a baller or not, be under that kind of pressure. I could be wrong, but that's just my take on it. And I put that to Arwin and, he seemed receptive. So maybe not.
Well, I think ultimately it comes back to the ultimate conclusion. Being wrong on the internet doesn't mean that anybody should attack you, but of course we all know that they do. The reason why Bob is untouchable is because Bob's self-employed. But if Bob was regulated by some authority somewhere, the board of plumbers or whatever, they would be all over that, and they would be trying to get him kicked out of his job because that's the way they are. Faceless warriors. It's a psychological warfare that they get these people apply and think that it's acceptable because it's against flat earthers. I remind myself of Robbie Davidson's video where he was telling people of that computer game that's out that was something to do with killing flat earthers, going around in first person mode, picking off flat earthers. And I might not be exactly right on that, but basically they were condoning violence and killings against flat earthers. And we seem to be fair game. And it's like, this is ridiculous. You can be anything you want to be in this world, but you can't be a flat earther.
I watched some TV for the first time in years yesterday, and literally within, I kid you not, 3 minutes of sitting down and going and having a conversation saying, I don't normally watch TV. Oh, well, how do you keep up with this, that and the other? Well, within minutes, there was a show on that was ridiculing Flat Earth. It was called The Last Leg. It was on Channel 4 yesterday evening, and they were talking about flat earthers thinking that Australia doesn't exist. That was their angle. You know, that was the straw man they used, along with general ridicule. And, you know, their arguments were just, you're wrong, flat earthers. And then they played some woman saying something that was a bit off, you know, a bit weird. I didn't really follow it. I was nipping out for cigarettes because I was just kind of like, I don't like television, and this is the reason why. You know, lots of straw man arguments. Well, no arguments, and then a claiming that we all think Australia isn't real. You know, and it's just, what do you say to that?
I'm just glad it wasn't that water's not made of hydrogen and oxygen, because that would have been horrendous.
You don't think Australia not being thought of as a real continent by you and I, when both of us have got... I mean, one of my largest audiences is Australia.
I actually think that it's worse that this element of flat Earth at the minute seems to be adopting the potential that the possibility that water might not be H2O. I mean, I raised that as an issue because I wanted it to be stamped on, and the evidence has been overwhelming. Yet I mean, that Pete and Peter show, they can only be controlled opposition or somewhere else, because they are still pushing it and ridiculing it as though we're stupid. And I'm watching the most recent 2 videos, and I'm thinking, what on earth are you two doing? Now, I don't know if you know about the Iron Realm Media conversation that they had, Nathan. I think you were away, and I don't think you've been up to speed with it. But when they were on TFR with Iron Realm Media.
Perfect timing. How you doing, Adam? We were just talking about you.
Hey, Adam.
You need to tell the story, John. Adam. You need to tell the story that I was just about to encroach on, because you can do it better than I. Tell Nathan and people listening.
What story is that? I just muted.
Hold on.
Australia.
Hold on. Hey, Nathan, don't kick him.
Adam, tell Nathan and people listening what happened in the Truth Frequency Radio interview. Not so much the interview whilst you were online. What happened, with the circumstances that surrounded it?
Well, as you guys know, we always like to do a little pre-show. John, you'll confirm. Because it's all about, rather than trying to get to meet people on air, it's trying to just get to know them a little bit and then present the story is always what we've always tried to do. And condense people a little bit so we can present something of them. Like if you took John's work, you know what I mean? We all agreed what would be the great thing to put on that gives John air and gets people a flavour of him and stuff, and gives him a chance to present whatever. So the same sort of thing with those guys. And I was running a few minutes late, so I joined a few minutes into the conversation, and they were talking, and that's pretty much how it went. There was lots of nods and niceties early on as we were discussing bits, but
well, 2 key phrases that you said, and let me jog your memory in case you're missing it, because I think you might be. They were communicating non-verbally with each other, with like nods and winks and stuff, which you guys picked up on, which was basically yes, answer that question or obfuscate that. I don't know. There was some kind of coding.
They've clearly got good non-verbal communication with each other. The twins, they finish each other's sentences. So, I mean, I don't think that's necessary, but it was odd, mate. It wasn't an honest conversation. It was very strange, and it turned quickly, not because of disagreement, but of announcement of my qualifications.
That's my next thing. You got to a point where you told them who you were and what you did, and then what was their reaction? How did they behave?
Well, instead of it being grillers and talk about this, that, and the other, it became, oh, well, you prove it, you know. And I was still trying to be honest and saying, look, let's investigate this, because as I said, you've got to investigate everything. You can't take assumptions. I'm more than happy, as I did, you know, last night to start again and see if I was being kidded as a kid. Do you know what I mean? So, but it was at the point of that there was just a twist of attitude, and pretty much I think they say it in their own video. If you can't disprove what we're saying, then what we say stands. There was a lot of straw man argument building from them. The whole experiment description is a straw man in the way they've presented it, and it just seems a very odd thing, because you know, we got accused of not being honest and genuine and all sorts of nastiness and all this sort of stuff, but hopefully most people know that's not us, and not how we are. We're happy to look at stuff, but it's their reaction is so defensive, and they're the ones making the extraordinary claims, so it would seem relevant. And that's the purpose of me wanting to talk to them, was to investigate these claims and see why, because they are presenting it as if they know what they're talking about, see why they were making these claims. But as soon as we wanted to investigate that, and certainly as soon as I pointed out that, well, I asked them what they were getting, as well as chlorine gas at the anode, and at that point, then it really just turned from, well, I remember the answer sort of vaguely. I said, you know, are you getting hydrogen then at the other gas? And if so, where's that coming from? Sort of thing. And it was, they looked at each other. There was, as Zach described, a moment of crickets. The one without the glasses, Peter, I think it is, put his head in his hands, looked at his brother, and then his brother went, oh yeah, bubbles, something else, and you know, a lot of flat earthers have got, as you hear them referring to, personal problems or issues. I'm not sure what derogatory term they were trying to use, but that was basically, then it went. And at that point, I'd been very polite, and Josh had been bubbling, and that's, I think, when Josh said, enough's enough. This is a sham. You know what I mean? And then, very strange behaviour.
Tell us about the representations that were made in their response video after the event.
Well, it was just falsehoods and a misrepresentation, and also a total, as you see, a total lack of understanding. First of all, it's TFR. Well, I remember Walt saying in the middle of the conversation, guys, we're not TFR. Do you know what I mean? So there was that basic thing. So that's very interesting as to why they would do that. If they're, at least if you're going to call someone names, get the name right. And then the whole video, if you listen to it, you know, all the accusations they're making, that Adam, why was I there? I don't know why I'd be there on I Am Realm. I've got no idea. Do you know what I mean? So a very misinformed and also false representation of the events, which was, I think, why as guys got upset and bothered to respond. Because, you know, you hear a lot of crap and we've never bothered before. Do you know what I mean? But that was just too much and not correct, and therefore needed addressing.
It's not typical of somebody like Sean Hufford, for example, to have a discussion, debate, or disagreement and then go and totally misrepresent it either before or after the event. And they've done the same. And it's a common practice. They do it deliberately to make a straw man argument, to then debunk that and claim victory, to which the argument was not about. And everybody will then just all hold each other's willies and sit around saying, "Oh, silly you are." And it's just ridiculous. It's so.
Not just that, Tony. You gave me the words last night because I couldn't get them. Projection. Yeah. And if you listen to the start of it, that's the initial point. They accuse us of being closed-minded and still ball mentality. It's very strange. It's very well scripted and intelligently put together. And like I say, just watch it. It just smells a bit to me. And their whole behaviour isn't honest and genuine. It was very aggressive from the moment they realised we were going to, you know, disagree with them. And, you know, I'll refer to Chris Monk. You know, people change their mind. Nathan's not just suddenly started him calling a faker and a, you know what I mean, and all this sort of stuff. It's people are entitled to their opinion. And as I was saying the week before, hopefully we should at least be able to have discussion over these things. You know, none of us in Iron Realm agree on stuff. You know what I mean? Or we all view things, and we have discussion. We don't call each other names. It might get heated in terms of the debate itself, but there's no need for this personal attack. And anyway,
I think a lot of it's down to the personnel at the time. I mean, most people are able to have a conversation, but there are certain people that you just cannot have the conversation with. No matter how you try, they cannot be civil. And I could reel you 10 names off, and I'm sure you could reel 10 off too. But there are the odd one or two that can have the conversation. And like you say, at the end of the day, none of us really know what's going on. If Chris has changed his mind, so be it. I don't know why he's changed his mind. I want to know. And I want to see the evidence that he accepted.
Hello.
Hey, Jimbo.
I heard the talk on the water and Pete, and if I may put in a minute worth of my input, I can maybe help dismantle the premise of their lies. And the premise of their lies and their conjectures is that water doesn't conduct electricity. Now, this pure water, this is a fallacy. Water is described as a poor conductor of electricity, not a non-conductor. A non-conductor is an insulator. Now, why is it a poor conductor? If we stick 2 electrodes with DC current in it into a vessel, and they're fairly far apart, no, you won't get much gas at all. But if you bring those electrodes closer and closer together, not touching, but within proximity, even pure water starts to dissociate. So they base their premise on basically a fallacy. Oh, you have to add a catalyst to water to get it to electrolyze. That is false. Again, any 2 electrodes in pure water with current flowing through them that are brought close enough together, the water has 7% free hydronium already in it. It will start the process of electrolysis. So these guys are quacks. I don't know why they're there. I really don't. But they have no business. Like, that's false science again. Water is a poor conductor, not a non-conductor. So again,
we know that it'll conduct because if pure water, which is what clouds are, if pure water was an insulator, then you would never get lightning.
Oh.
Lightning comes from the clouds, through the clouds, and it gets out through the earth somehow. However it does it, we don't know. But if it were an insulator, then it would never happen, and it happens every day.
Yeah, it's just a poor conductor. That is how it's described, and that's how it behaves. And another thing, here, water can be an explosive product and cause fires with electricity. Now, in Canada, we have winters, and we get ice overhanging the edges of homes and buildings that often breaks down and breaks off and falls, and it's dangerous. So they had an electrical wire that you'd plug in, and it was a heating element, and it would melt the ice. But the problem that this electrical heating wire and the ice, well, when they became defective, I guess they were forming hydrogen gas and other stuff and causing explosions and fires. So they're banned now, those particular devices. But here we just had water and electricity, and it was burning down buildings. But as I say, well, you know, water itself has the potential to be an explosive product. It is a form of fuel.
Down, dude, but did you see me pop?
Yeah.
Did you like the pop? I was quite pleased with that.
It
Hey,
was
George.
lovely.
Can you hear us, George?
Yeah, I'll mute so y'all can talk.
Greetings, George.
No, it's dropped. I think it might be a troll.
Yeah, I was interested the other night talking to George about the whole.
Sorry, just kick him out the
Brian
back chat. Bear with me, guys. Just kick him out the back chat. That troll. If it was George, I'm sure he would have said hello.
Okay, he's gone, but I reckon it probably was him.
Well, he would have said hello.
Yeah, they've gone back to cloning people's like icons and trying to slip through that way, eh?
Well, we're on the board. We can control the trolling. Sometimes we let them do it for entertainment values, but sometimes they do catch us off guard. But we have the upper hand. They can't control the hangout. We do.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's good that it's organized like that now, because It was tiresome, the porn bombings and all that nonsense. It's good to have like it organized and flow through without these criminals
Yeah.
interfering.
The level of dedication is mind-boggling.
Well, some of them are paid. Let's face it.
It's only one or two of them, but they managed to make themselves feel like there's 50 of them, but there's only a handful of them.
Yeah.
Tony, I'm just being ignorant here, but what's he doing?
They have assistance of the state. They have hack programs and all kinds of stuff, you know. So
That's what I'm saying, dude. What's he posted in the back chat? What's all that? Sorry about that.
I don't think that was George. So personally, I wouldn't click on a random link that some random joiner has put in. I wouldn't click on that if I were you.
It's a bit more odd than that.
I don't even see that.
Yeah, don't click on stuff that randoms have just dropped into the Hangout.
No, it's not even like that. Look, have a look at it, Nathan. No,
thanks. I'm good. I'm good. I don't like clicking on random stuff people have just joined.
I'm not saying click it. I'm saying look at what's listed. It's huge.
Where are you looking at? I don't even see it.
In the side chat.
In the Hangout, it just popped up as soon as he popped up, and then.
No, I don't know. I'm not even looking at it if I'm honest. Oh, you're on about in the side chat.
Yeah, what is it?
Let's have a look.
Detailed print screen doc. I don't know.
Is it about ethics?
It is a huge post. I don't know what all that is. There's about 50 different things. Don't click on any of them.
No, it's always kind of it's insinuating.
I don't know what it is, but it stinks.
Yeah, this is just some turd that some random has dropped on our doorstep and we're all sniffing around it.
Yeah, just ignore it. Yeah.
Anywho. Well, that killed the mood.
Yeah, my dog's just about to burst into song, so I'm going to drop on mute.
So, I mean, it sounds like you're kind of insinuating that these Pete and Peter are somehow operatives or something. I can't believe I'm asking this question.
as smart as they are, they shouldn't be taking partial information, skewing it, and then pumping out a whole new paradigm with it. That's obfuscation, and it's just to divide and conquer. I can't see it. It had no real bearing on the flat Earth with the progress that was being made. It's often a tangent, but like giant trees and other stuff, whoosh, it just magnetized and polarized the attention.
Are these guys you're talking about, are they flat earthers or?
Well, I don't know what they are. They're twins, and they're playing the game like those two French brothers, twins and genius. It's like, you know, come on, give me a break. They're full of babble, gobbledygook, and double talk.
They're the ones who have brought up this whole thing about water.
Yeah, and I'm trying to help kill it, because their basis was that water is a non-conductor of electricity, and you have to add a catalyst to make it electrolyze, and that is 100% false. So everything that follows their paradigm sense.
Oh god, I've got a troll joining that's gonna disturb the fun. Great. Oh, managed to get him. Happy days.
Happy days.
Do you know, I didn't even notice that account joined. Did you see the account join, Nath?
Yeah. Managed to get him.
Yeah. Anyway.
So you know that George guy? He rang up Brian Mullins? Oh no, he was reporting him, wasn't he, for being unethical?
He said that he didn't report him officially, right? Because Arwen asked him the closed question, "Did you report him?" And his answer was no. But earlier in the Hangout, he'd said that the board, the regulatory board, were not interested in Brian's views on the shape of the Earth. And I'm like, well, how would you know that if you hadn't tried to report him? Because it must have been rejected on that basis, right?
Hello, Sean. Can you hear us?
I don't think that's him because he's got a different icon. So I've kicked him on the basis that it looks like a troll account. Oh, has he managed to snipe?
This is me on my other account.
Oh, damn it. He managed to snipe the Hangout. Ugh, god damn. Okay, there'll be a short intermission. How long we've been going? That might be an opportune moment to round out the show, actually, although it is a little bit early, so I'll do that and we'll have a brief 10-minute break rather than me having a period of silence. So with that, I will say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live panel for making this debate possible. And I mean it, thank you very much indeed, especially Ranty, who is just basically the best person in the whole wide world. So thank you to all of the debating panel. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, you know exactly what to do. If you like the show, maybe consider subscribing or sharing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!